Welcome to Season 9, Episode 56 of the Be Conscious Podcast. Today, I am pleased to interview Mynoo Maryel, best-selling author of the Bee Book, a visionary and thought leader revered by many as a mystic. Listen in as Mynoo shares her journey from climbing the corporate ladder to creating the Inspired Leadership Index and the conscious counterpart of the World Economic Forum. Here we go.
Welcome to the Be Conscious Podcast, the show that brings you enlightened perspectives on the frequency of money, life's many challenges, and those heavy feelings that may be holding you back from living your best life. And now your host, Dr. Susan Nicholas.
In this inspiring episode of the Be Conscious Podcast with Mynoo Maryel, we're going to talk about a concept Albert Einstein shared with humanity when he stated, "We could not solve problems with the same thinking we used to create them." An essential tool for creating visionary concepts and solving pressing issues is your mental presence and clarity of thought. Something that has helped me on my conscious journey with my mental clarity and alertness is Magic Mind. Magic Mind is a clean, organic 2-ounce mental performance shot that keeps you at peak mental performance throughout the day. And you know what I absolutely love about Magic Mind is that it not only tastes great, but I no longer have those midday energy slumps. Listen, if you're looking for an alternative to the jitters and the ups and downs of caffeine, or if you simply want to enhance your favorite energy drink, give Magic Mind a try. You'll wonder what you ever did before Magic Mind, and if you're anything like me, look forward to it every morning. The Be Conscious Podcast gets up to a 48% discount on subscriptions, or 20% off single orders with the code BeConscious20 at checkout. That's www.magicmind.com/BeConscious20. Now let's get back to our interview with Mynoo. Mynoo, welcome to the Be Conscious Podcast.
Hello, Susan. Thank you so much for welcoming me. It is my pleasure and privilege to be here.
Thank you so much, Mynoo. Visionary, I think, is a word that can hardly describe what you are doing in the world. What I would love for you to do is to share with our audience what you were doing before you're creating the conscious counterpart to the World Economic Forum. Who were you? What were you doing? And what was the catalyst that shifted and I would say propelled you into your conscious works?
Thank you. Yeah, I do like talking about my journey. I was brought up in India, um, and I mean, it was quite a reasonably spiritual home that I was brought up in. And yet India is a very competitive landscape. You know, average age of the population is between the ages of 18 to 24. So it's a very, very high level of competitiveness that you start to enter as you go into higher education. And I did well in that. And, I think I would say India prepared me for the competitive world in the West. So from India, I went to live in Saudi Arabia, which actually made me an entrepreneur because women weren't allowed to work.
Hmm.
And you could be a teacher or you could be a nurse or a doctor. I was not a nurse or a doctor. I could be a teacher of computer studies for women. So, in collaboration with an Arabic friend of mine, we created an institute for computer studies for women in Jeddah, in Saudi Arabia. And I did that for 3 years, and then moved to live in London for 35 years. And it was in London that my training in India, which trained me powerfully and amazingly for the competitive world, came into play. And I did well. I, really entered deep into the top echelons of British industry and also did some significant major studies on leadership for the European Union. And that gave me a really amazing understanding of what differentiates good leaders from those that are inspired leaders. And I discovered and distilled the 7 habits of inspired leadership, started implementing it myself, and became an advisor and a high level coach and mentor to boards of many Fortune 500 companies while I was there. And I was a serial entrepreneur, so converting ideas into businesses was really what my forte was. Now, I had my successes, I had my ups, and I had my downs, and all of that. And I was on another rise up. This is around 2008, and my business was starting to take off again. And inside me, I felt as if there was a hollowness. Nothing was giving me joy. Nothing. Things that used to really touch my heart weren't doing it. And I was in a beautiful relationship. We'd been together for 17 and a half years at the time. My son was finishing up his A levels, they call it, 12th grade in India, in the UK. And I mean, the only stress I had really was he did not feel that college education had anything to offer him. And for an Indian mother, that is very stressful. But for my English partner, it was like it's quite normal to take a gap year. Um, so anyhow, he did take a gap year, and as I thought it would happen, it became a gap period, and he went on to become an entrepreneur, and he still is. Now, what happened with me at the time was that I started feeling a disconnect, and I have a very dear friend who's based in New York,
Mm-hmm.
and I would consult her once a year. When I spoke to her, um, and this is on 29 December 2009. I recall that conversation very clearly. She literally went ballistic on the phone and she started screaming at me. She's a very soft spoken, gentle garden designer, you know. I hear her screaming at me. And she's screaming, saying, "Stop everything, just go away for 3 weeks without your partner, without your son. You have to find out who you are and what you are to do next."
Mm-hmm.
I just disconnected the phone. I thought, this is crazy. She doesn't know my life. What's the reason for me to go away? And she said I should go away
Mm-hmm.
for 3 weeks. Now, why would I suddenly, after 17 years, decide that I'm going to go away for 3 weeks? There's no reason to do that.
Well, let's stop there. Let's before we go into that, because I feel like that's when you said 29th December 2009, to me that if that is so crystal clear in your mind and you remember this moment so clearly, to me that is probably where a large shift occurred. But before we go into that, like what happened next, I feel like I've got to go back a little bit because you said a couple of things that I think um, many people that are very high achieving, I would say people that at their height of their worldly success experience. Firstly, before I even get into that, what was that 3 year period in Saudi Arabia about? Because to me, it sounds like when you grow up in a culture, a Western culture, or perhaps your native culture, where women are empowered and you can work and you can create and you can earn money and you can live independently, to go to Saudi Arabia where women are property, where the belief system or the mentality is different. What was that about? Like, why did you go there, and what did you get from that experience?
I went there because I got married to my childhood sweetheart, and Saudi Arabia had very, very good jobs, and they paid a lot of money, which basically meant we could go there, work there for a few years, create a little bit of a nest egg, and then come back, and build a home and all of that, and not be burdened by lots of loans. So it was that we got married.
Okay. Like an economic reason.
Yeah, economic, and the fact that my husband was there, so
Hmm.
I went there.
Okay, perfect. All right, so that makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Now, when you said you came to London,
Mm.
spent 35 years, you said there was a point where there was a disconnect.
Yeah.
And despite all that you had achieved, being a serial entrepreneur, ups and downs in businesses, the business is starting to thrive and grow again. You said you felt a hollowness,
Yes.
and there was nothing that could bring you joy.
Mm.
This is something I describe as a hollowness of the soul,
Yeah.
where we spend for many of us, I'll definitely speak for myself. We spend the first half of our lives, what I call on this external journey of validation,
Mm.
where we're earning money and we're earning credentials and we're earning titles and degrees and status,
Yeah.
maybe having our families, believing that those things have the power to heal what ails the soul, that those things have the power to bring us fulfillment and happiness.
Mm.
But then something shifts, then something happens. And the reason I say high performing individuals at the height of their career success is because there's a point when you reach that zenith, or you reach that point where you say, oh, I've done it, I have it all,
Mm.
or I've accomplished it, or I checked all my boxes.
Mm.
And then you recognize that there's something in you that still is unfulfilled.
Yeah.
And for some of us, we continue on like that, where we are unfulfilled, but we're too afraid to make a shift or a change. And so we kind of work what we call dead end jobs, where we're just not,
Yeah.
we don't have the oomph, or the kind of the energy or the pep in our step. We just kind of check in and check out.
Yeah.
And then there's some people that experience, what we call a midlife crisis,
Yeah.
where there's a complete breakdown and a dismantling of that old paradigm
Mm.
so something new can be created.
Yeah. 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 No, go on.
So now if we could go into that conversation that you had with your gardening, your very cool, serene gardening friend.
Yes.
It's the 29th December 2009, and you
Yes.
said she's shouting at me.
Yes. Yes.
Then what happened? Like
Yeah.
what was that about?
I think it's worth me sharing what happened just before I call her, right? So I create my first ever blog. And on my blog, I wrote about Berlin Wall moments. When
Hmm.
the Berlin Wall came down, the reality of the world shifted. Cold
Mm-hmm.
War was a reality. When the Berlin Wall came down, Cold War was no longer a reality. And all of the nations around the world had to recalibrate
Mm.
to match this reality. And my blog talked about, do we as humans, do we have Berlin Wall moments?
Mm.
I shared a couple of mine. Little did I know that my real Berlin Wall moment was about to come.
Right.
I make the call to my friend and I say to her, okay, what do my guardian angels have to say to me for 2010? And she starts screaming.
Mm.
And she says to me that your guides want to connect with you and you are just so busy, you're not listening. You have to go away for 3 weeks without your partner, without your son, and really only focus on who am I and what am I to do next. And I
Mm.
tried to explain to her, I already know who I am. And she said, listen to me. Listen to what I'm saying. This is serious. You must take heed of this. That's the point I disconnected the phone because I just felt, I mean, how could someone even say this? It's like we've been together for 17 and a half years, and I'm now suddenly going to say I need to go away for 3 weeks without you guys.
Mm-hmm.
you know Anyhow, I just shared it with my partner and my son, and we all laughed about it. What I did do, though, Susan, is we were about to go to our usual New Year's gig, but I wrote to my friends on LinkedIn,
Mm-hmm.
and I said, anyone up for bringing in the new year with a chant of Om Namah Shivaya? Experience a different kind of a new year, and if you are, then just bring a plate of food and a drink and let's have it at my place. And I told my partner and my son that I will not go to our usual party, I'm just going to do this.
Okay.
And they said, well, whatever. 35 people showed up, Susan, and I knew 5 of them. And one of the women that came in was a jazz singer turned voice coach. And she brought with her the whole paraphernalia of Indian musical instruments like the harmonium, the tabla, which is like a drum's equivalent, a flute, And she said, let's do it. I had 30 or so bottles of champagne. None of them actually got opened. And we brought in the new year with this chant of Om Namah Shivaya. I was awesome. And 3 days after that, I became very ill. And my right ankle got swollen up like an elephant's foot.
Mm.
And I was rushed to the hospital. My feet were put up in the air, and I had very strong intravenous antibiotic drips. And the doctors came to me and said, "Well, this is cellulitis, and it could go away soon. However, our experiences with the case that you have, it could take anything from 3 to 6 months."
Mm.
To me, that was like too much of a coincidence. The last time I had been to the hospital prior to that was when I had a baby. And that was like, 17 years ago or something.
Exactly. When you said it seemed like too much of a coincidence, I'm reminded that there are no coincidences in the universe.
Yeah, totally, totally. So I did reconnect with my friend because I just felt that what she said had something to do with it. And the moment I talked to her, she said, "Oh, right ankle. Well, you have to move forward and you're not moving forward. Just decide to go away
Mm.
and, it'll go away."
Oh, I love that.
At this point, I'm having the conversation from my hospital bed. My partner is with me, my son is with me. And both of them say to me, "Listen, you're a logical person. Why don't you just decide to go away? If the infection subsides, you go. If it doesn't subside, you're in the hospital anyway." So it felt sort of safe.
So I love that. I love this friend of yours because she said, right ankle, you need to move forward. I'll share with you
Yeah.
that I recently fractured my left ankle, which
Ah,
put me uh, in bed, or unable to move for about 3 months. Okay. And someone said the same thing to me. They said,
my
"Oh,
God.
left ankle. That means you are healing the past."
Mm,
And so I've thought about this spiritually, about this this energy, or this,
mm,
I would say, when we have walked or pursued this external path for so long that we can no longer stand it, like our soul can no longer stand it.
yeah.
The universe has a way of showing us
Mm,
when we don't listen, like when we're too busy, or we're being good human doers and just doing, producing, tasking. That's we just are on the hamster wheel almost unconsciously, believing we have to do more, be more, produce more, make more money, particularly when we're entrepreneurs. I'm also a serial entrepreneur. I know this energy very well.
yeah.
That the universe, when we feel like we can't listen, that we're in our racket, in our mind, that we have to keep doing more because we have to keep a roof over our head, we have to get the kid in college, we have to, pay the house mortgage, we got to, we're in that mode of survival, essentially, even if it may be at a very high level, that the universe will use things that get our attention.
Yeah.
So for some of us, it might be with our money. Like there'll be a job loss, or there'll be a business loss, or a loss of a customer, or a loss of your home, or a loss of your belongings. Some of us have the security issue in this life that we were meant to overcome. And so the universe hits us kind of in our wallet, where our
Yeah.
money is. Some of us, we have plenty of money, or maybe our self-worth or value or security is not what we're working on in this life, but it hits us where our health, our some of it hits us in our
Yeah.
mind, if that's something that we're meant to overcome in this
Yeah.
life. Or, emotionally, our relationships, whatever it is, that we're meant to really
Yeah.
do, that's where we get
Mm,
the wake up call. And so it doesn't surprise me that it's your right foot when you're not moving forward, because I feel like consciously, when we don't move forward in life, it shows up in our legs and our
mm,
feet.
yeah.
Yeah. Even people that have, if you ever look at someone's
Mm,
toes, and maybe they're bent or crooked, that energetically that may signal someone that's really dug in,
Mm,
like they will not shift or move forward from something,
mm,
like they're indignant.
yeah.
And then you see it kind of uh, deform their toes. And so I would,
Mm, interesting.
yeah, it's very interesting. But it's only hindsight that's 2020. And so the idea is
Yeah.
the unit. This is a huge thing to me. This is what many people call a spiritual awakening. It's like you said, a shift, like that Berlin Wall movement. I love that analogy, where it's a shift in your reality,
Mm,
where from here forward, your perception about your life or what's important or your priorities are going to change.
mm. Yeah, yeah, yeah. And really, that is what happened, Susan. Um, and so, I decided to go to Bali because some friends of mine had gone there and stayed by themselves in a resort. And I decided to go there for 3 weeks. And sure enough, the infection subsided within 4 days. I was on oral antibiotics and I went to Bali. And like my son says, Bali happened to you.
Hmm.
I went there for 3 weeks, decided to move there and stayed there for 9 years.
Oh, so you moved your family there?
I moved and my son came in there. But the first time I went to Bali for 3 weeks, I saw very clearly that my partner and I are, whilst we were really happy and in love, our relationship was actually complete. So I came back and I shared with him and I said, I really would like to complete our relationship as a couple with celebration and honor and invite all our friends. Um,
Mm. Well, that's very high in awareness. I guess uh, some people have called that conscious uncoupling. So you said that you had that awareness. What about your partner? Did he feel the same way?
I spoke to him about what had happened to me. He said, look, this is the first time you're asking for something you want for yourself. And I honor that.
Wow.
We will work it out, he said. And I don't know where I got this courage from, Susan. I said to him, um, we will work out however our relationship as a couple has completed.
Hmm.
Request you to receive that. And he did, Susan. He did. I mean, really, he did.
So I love this. I went through something similar. Um, I wish it was a Bali moment or Bali happened to me, but it wasn't. But it was a shift in my spousal relationship with my son's father.
Hmm.
And I think when this is the way that I think about relationships, generally speaking, is that when you enter into a relationship with a person,
Mm,
and this could be a romantic relationship, a friendship, it could be a work type of relationship.
yeah,
Um, there's a time and space where that relationship is exactly what you need for your spiritual growth.
mm,
And I believe that our relationships are fertile ground for our soul's evolution.
mm,
And so what happens is we're in these relationships, and sometimes they're for a significant amount of our lifetime.
mm,
And we notice that our vibrations are shifting, meaning that we are all continually evolving,
yeah,
but maybe one of us starts to evolve in a different direction.
mm,
So it's directional. It's not good or bad,
yeah,
or you're elevating and they're not. And it's just that it's directionally it's different. Where some of us, and I count us in this group of the some of us,
yeah,
embark on more spiritual paths,
yeah,
and our partners go on their path.
yeah,
But what we tend to do in when we are unconscious is we make one of them wrong,
yeah,
or one of them right and one of them wrong. And it's not. It's just that we are changing. And most people would agree that, let's say they meet their high school sweetheart like you did, or they're a teenager,
mm,
and they're in that spiritual place, they're in that emotional place, that mental place, that physical place. And then 60, 70 years later, they haven't changed and they're still jibing, and relating to each other in the same way they did when they were kids, most people would say that's insane. Of course that's not going to happen because life happens, you change, evolve, grow, etc.
Mm.
And so the idea is that that's the expectation, is that you're going to change, but we may not change directionally in the same way. And so in a very conscious way, I love that you said this. You said we completed, like you had this, to me that's a higher, that's comes from a place of higher awareness,
Yeah,
that this relationship has completed. And
yeah.
it's not that, particularly when it's the parent of your children or child,
Mm.
that relationship, you are still going to be in that relationship until everybody dies, right? As
Mm.
long as your child is living, that will always be your child's other parent. As long as you're living, that will be your who you had that very special relationship with. So the idea is that the reality, it's like another Berlin Wall moment, but in your spousal relationship where that reality is going to change. So it may have been a
Yeah.
romantic or what we call a spousal or marriage type of relationship, then that may shift and become a friendship.
Mm.
And sometimes even when that spousal relationship isn't separated or dissolved, it still becomes a friendship,
Yeah,
even in under the umbrella of a marriage,
yeah.
right?
Very
Because we change and shift.
yeah.
It's impossible. It's an imperative and it's an inevitability. We all are changing. You and I have changed from the moment that we started this call,
Yes, of
because
course.
maybe there's something that you said that impacted me, that changed my perspective,
Mm.
and vice versa.
Yeah,
Maybe there's something I said to you that said, oh, and then you're forever changed.
very true. Very
Yeah, and so I love this. I love that you're bringing this up, because when we have big awakenings in our life, or when the
yeah,
Berlin Wall collapses in our own life, it's not just our work that changes. It's everything changes
yeah,
because you change.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
So you're at the place where your relationship is changing, you're in Bali, your partner is also aware, and you celebrate this transition of that relationship.
yeah. We actually did a happy endings party, and we invited all our family and friends. And I mean, none of them expected us to ever end our relationship. And we had a beautiful completion. It was a celebratory completion. People shared who we were for them as a couple, and they shared their individual messages for us. It was great. Nobody needed to take any sides. All of that was all good.
Exactly. I love it. I wish we could do more of that with death of our physical body,
Mm.
where it's a celebration of life or a celebration of those relationships, and nobody has to get upset, and there's no infighting, and nobody's pointing fingers, or the grievances we're complete. We make closure. And so
Yes.
I think there's this thing about, we don't often do that because we're so hung up in our dramas and traumas of life,
Yeah.
to be able to make closure and to have it be a happy
Yeah.
experience.
Yeah. Yeah. And, so, and then at that point, I was so clear after I did all of that. I got a level of clarity that I didn't have before. And I was clear that I had to wind up my interests of all kinds in London and move and base myself in Bali. Um, I went there via Perth because I'd only ever lived in cities. So Perth is a town in Western Australia, and
Mm-hmm.
I have some friends there, and it is about 2.5 hours flight from Bali. Um, and it has enough of a city and lots of lovely nature. So I thought that would be a very good in between place. So I went there for a few months, and then I was ready for Bali and moved to Bali, connected to the calling of my soul, and decided to really focus my attention on that as the next leg of my journey. And it was there that I really discovered the whole body of work that I talked about in my first book, which is called the Be Book. And you're talking about, your show is Be Conscious.
Mm-hmm.
The book is called the Be Book, which is all about, having a B list rather than only being trapped in your to-do list. And
Mm.
And from that experience, I truly believe if you wish to have whatever you want, you just simply have to be, and you have it. Doing flows anyway. When we drive our life from doing, and being disappears out of the window, all forms of negative vibrations start developing, and the universe just applies a multiplier effect to whatever you're vibrating. So be and you have,
I love that. I'd like to kind of be here for a minute with this B book
Yes,
because you said a B list versus a to do list, being trapped in a to do list. And
yes,
to me, that's an analogy for being trapped on this hamster wheel of life, which to me is really about survival.
yes,
That we are conditioned to be like these excellent human doers, producing and tasking away and doing more, that we never get to learn how to just be. And even if we are to be, let's just say we go on retreats or we take vacations or whatever, and we just, okay, I'm just going to be still, I'm going to be quiet. We can't. Like, we're still concerned about all the tasks that we're not doing while we're being.
yeah,
Or if you're in certain types of gig economies where you're an artist or you're, a writer or producer or an actor or something, and you feel like, well, if I'm just being, then I'm not making money, right? And the rent keeps coming due, the 30-day cycle of this money construct that you cannot even just be. We cannot, it's like our nervous system is so amped up. We don't know how to be. I came into my conscious awareness from the place of clinical medicine. I trained as a surgeon. And what would typically happen is you're working so hard, you're tasking so hard, you're doing so much, you're so busy that when it's time to take a break, you actually become ill. Like your first days of vacation or whatever, when you finally let it go, you actually, get a cold or feel like you're just completely depleted and broken down. And so you spend the first few days of your quote unquote holiday in bed.
yeah,
So Minu, you spoke about this idea of negative vibrations from the universe, if you will, when we're in this constant mode of doing, and producing.
yeah,
And one of the things that I'd like to share is that I believe that the frequency of our feelings are the language of the universe. That when we have these feelings in our heart where we are afraid, when we have scarcity, lack, when we're in survival mode, when we're anxious, that energy from our heart is what is resonated out to that universal substrate of creation and returned to us in kind. So it becomes a self fulfilling prophecy where I say, I'm afraid this is going to happen, or I've got to work really hard because I got to make payroll. And what if there's not enough? And I have a little bit of fear and anxiety in me. Then the universe, given the nature of it, has no choice but to return to us truly what we feel inside of our heart. So we will see more circumstances of lack, more circumstances that trigger that anxiety in us. Because again, the universe wants to give us what we truly feel from our heart center. It returns to us in kind what we feel from our heart.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, what I've learned, Susan, in living through these amazing spiritual awakenings is the universe is in service of us, and it has one modus operandi, which is to apply a multiplier effect to whatever it is that we are feeling, which is what is a representation of our vibrations, and it just multiplies those vibrations. So when we are trapped in the do rays, then we are literally just, like a victim waiting to happen. So what I
Mm,
have learned through living this bee lifestyle is that be and you have. Doing just flows. We're designed to do. So doing flows. But when we disconnect from being, we don't enjoy the journey. And that's where we get trapped into this negative low vibe. But if you actually choose a bee
mm-hmm.
bird, and that is the context for how you're going to go about doing what you're doing, then you enjoy the journey.
Yeah.
You're connected to your being. And, a human that is being is a human being love.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that is what amplifies. And that's what I really got from the whole the bee book and the bee lifestyle exercise and experiences. And it was in being that I arrived at 2012, which was my first introduction into silence.
Mm-hmm.
And I just went throughout 2012, all the way until the 21st of December 2012, had various periods of silence. It could be 3 days of silence, 5 days of silence, 7 days, 15 days. I was in Australia at the time, and traveling between Australia and Bali quite a lot. Um, and it was through those periods of silence that I would receive what I called as a download.
Mm-hmm.
And I would write it up, and then I would implement it. And it is a collection of 121 such downloads that I call as the flourishing codes. And that is what I have chronicled in my next book that is coming out on the 29th of July this year. It's called The Flourishing Code. It'll be available on Amazon, both as a Kindle version as well as a hardback version. And it is a collection of 121 codes, flourishing codes. As I implemented it on myself, I have since then implemented it with tens of thousands of people around the
Mm.
world. And the flourishing codes, each code has got a story of someone implementing that code. And there are several people that would have implemented each one. And the book is written in such a way that you can choose a number between 1 and 121, and that's your code for the day, if you like.
Mm.
Or you can just open the book like an oracle book and read what's there. Or you can ask a question and then, to look for the code and see what the answer is. So the code is designed, the flourishing code is really designed to serve us in addressing big issues, smaller issues, variety of issues. I've had people work with a single flourishing code and turn around, completely reinvent their
Mm.
businesses, as well as reinvent their relationships. A whole host of things have emerged from the flourishing code. So I'm excited to share it with the world this time.
Yeah, I'm excited to learn about it. Can you give us an example of one of the
Yes.
codes that, let's say, has been most impactful to you, or maybe one that you're engaging in right now?
Okay, I'll share with you one that I run a business collective, Susan.
Okay.
Um, these are businesses that have grown and plateaued, and I work with a collection of them, and then they just embark on a new growth phase. So 2 days each month we focus on our businesses. So I'm about to read to you this code, which is called Act As If. So just bear with me, let me get it up. It's code number 3, Act As If. Unlock the act as if magic by envisioning yourself as the embodiment of luck, beauty, and prosperity. Step boldly into your truth, radiate your miraculous magnificence, and witness the transformation as your non believing self takes a back seat to the glorious reality you are creating. Here is the code. Act as if you are the luckiest person alive. Act as if you admire the most amazing beauty in everyone you know. Act as if you are flooded with so much to be grateful for. Act as if you are the beloved. Act as if you are as prosperous as you want to be. Act as if all your desires are met. Act as if you have the Midas touch. Whatever you touch turns into gold. Act as if every moment of your life is filled with joy. Act as if you have all you could want. Act as if you have the magical power to manifest anything you could ever want when you desire it. Act as if you are in perfect health and have the capacity to heal yourself. Act as if you are the bee's knees, you are the gift from the universe we have all been longing for. Act as if your talents, experiences, and expertise are in high demand. Act as if every word you utter is a gift you give to people and the world around you. Act as if you are the ultimate guru the world has been waiting for. Act as if all your dreams are coming true. What if all of this was real? What would be going on in your life and in your being? Act as if you have it all and tune yourself into the vibrations all around you. This is your reality. It's what you have been waiting for. Know that you already have it all and receive yourself in your full glory and majestic, miraculous, magical, manifesting magnificence. What are you waiting for? Step forward, and your non believer self will automatically step aside. It's just a matter of walking in your stride. We welcome you to come forth and multiply your loving gifts and talent. Present who you are inside to the outside. It's time.
Mm, that is so beautiful. I love all of that. And I think most people, like, that encompasses like the highest desire of most embodied humans,
Yeah, yeah.
is to have the life that they dream, a life that they love,
Mm,
or be in a state, the flow state of love. I, I think what tends to happen to
mm,
us is
yeah.
we don't recognize the power of thought, that our thoughts carry a vibration. And so many people will affirm things like the act as if, as you eloquently spoke, it's beautifully written, it's beautiful. And then there will be this seed of doubt that says, well, but I'm living in impoverished circumstances, or I'm not very smart, and
Right.
but I'm a woman, or I'm a minority person. Like, they have all these belief systems that
Mm,
if I'm not doing, then I'm lazy, you know, or if I'm not doing enough, then I don't
yeah.
deserve to have everything that I desire. And so, what would you say to people that I would say have
Mm,
the thought thing that
yeah. Yeah.
sabotages their dreams?
Now that the flourishing code is out, I would a lot of the time people don't even know that they are sabotaging Susan, you know.
Exactly.
They're doing it
Unconsciously.
unconsciously, and they're doing it because, we've all been brought up to be cautious and careful and all that stuff. But what we don't realize is sometimes it becomes stifling to what our soul
Mhm,
is
mhm.
seeking, which is expansion through this human form.
Right.
So that can happen. What I'm saying to people more and more now is, if you're seeing a pattern where you go so far and then your dream doesn't actually get realized, and a
Mhm,
curveball hits, and then you start again, and then after a while, it all seems to be going well, and a curveball hits again, and you're
mhm,
seeing a pattern like this. Rather than going into a state where you form a variety of negative thoughts around, this always happens to me,
mhm,
that might be, sure, there is some vibration in us, which is why it is happening. I
mhm,
say, now that the flourishing code is out, ask, what is the code that will have an answer for me? And you'll get a number between 1 and 121. Whatever that number, go pick that and see what the answer could be.
yeah.
And the code will give you a direction. That's what I would say. The main thing is, stuff happens, and sometimes it doesn't feel good. Sometimes it feels like it's pushed us back. Acknowledge it. Don't overlook it. Don't even go into the dialogue that I shouldn't really do this.
Mhm,
I should be more positive. Well, you're not feeling positive right now. Acknowledge it. And keep acknowledging whatever else there is to acknowledge until you are able to unconditionally accept all that is. Only when you can unconditionally accept all that is, you are free to move forward.
mhm.
But you still have that energy in you, and whatever you do with moving forward, it'll have this heavy weight attached to it.
Right, right. Yeah, so the idea is, I love what you've just said about acknowledging it, because I think when we are in a state of victimhood, or we think things are happening to us, or things always happen, or we say to ourselves, I knew this is going to happen, or this always happens to me, is the idea that we own that energy too. Like we
Yeah.
own that we are the creators of our own life. We own that there's
Yes.
a part of me that's still holding on to, you fill in the blank, fear, anxiety, shame, whatever
Mm,
the lower energies or the denser energies that
mm,
don't feel good, that's still a part of you. That's still something to me
yeah.
that's in need of transformation, that it's energy, that you can't get rid of it.
Yeah.
And I love what you brought up about you move forward, you go up, and then there's the curveball. Here it is again. So it feels like a roller coaster, up and down, up and down, up and down. And then when you become aware
Mm,
of that pattern, as you said, are aware that keeps happening, um, you
yeah.
recognize that it's you. There's something within you that's creating it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think what can stifle us or harm us, particularly those of us that have been on conscious journeys for decades, is you have awareness and you
Yeah.
think you're doing the work, but it persists, and you're looking for that breakthrough that finally breaks the cycle. And I think
Yeah.
because we all possess the capacity to feel all the energies, all the feelings, all the vibrations, that if we
Yes.
can somehow give love to it, because what it really is doing, I believe, Minu, is showing us something that is ripe for transformation. So, in a way,
Mm,
if we can, if we can rise to the energy of gratitude for the universe showing us one more time, yet one more time,
yeah.
that this is something that's still within us in need of transformation,
Yeah.
then we can. I believe it leaves a place for forgiveness of ourselves and perhaps a place of compassion for how challenging this life journey is.
Mm,
It's not easy. It is not. And anyone, that lives life like it's a piece of cake, it gets a pretty rude awakening, a wake up call. That the transformation of energy, and I believe it's because we're never taught. We're almost, at least in the Western culture, I'll speak to the one that I was raised in, we are never, ever given a space, time, education, anything, instruction on healing what ails the soul. And in fact, we live in almost a place of
mm,
ignorance of it, or of rejection of the soul, outright rejection of it. And so
mm,
it's a bit of a harrowing
mm.
journey. But what I like to say is that it's a worthy one, because once you learn that you are creating everything and you own that you've created all of this, even if in the past you once thought you were being victimized by life,
Yeah.
it's only then that you have the power to change it. You have to become aware of it, and as you said, acknowledge it, and
Yeah.
only then are you empowered to change it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, before we end this show, I would love if you would share with us this conscious counterpart to the World Economic Forum that you've created.
Yeah.
And I know the flourishing codes are coming out. We'll have a link to that in our show notes. But what else is coming up for you?
So we have, this is something that, again, I really received as a download, that we are born with three things. We are born with choice, which is the modus operandi of being human. And we are always choosing, even if we choose to make no choice, or we choose to give our choice away to something else or someone else. Like, I had no choice, you say it. We are choosing to give our power away. We are born with choice. It's always there for us to choose. The second thing that we're born with is dignity, which is the honoring of our own worthiness. And when we honor our own worthiness, we are able to honor the worthiness in others,
Mm,
and on the and in on the worthiness of the planet itself. And it is this disconnect that has meant that a tree has value once it is chopped and comes on the balance sheet. In the forest, it had no value, so forests got chopped, and we are all
mm,
impacted by climate change issues. It's a dignity.
mm-hmm,
And it is that really got me thinking that, okay, we've been so driven by economy that we've actually ignored dignity.
Mhm.
And it's not just a human issue, and it is a human issue, but not only a human issue, it is impacting the planet at
Mhm.
large.
Mhm.
There's dignity that is like, even missing from business and how business models
Mhm. Mhm.
work out. All the Me Too movement and many such things are all to do with this lack of honoring of our own worthiness. And therefore, it is okay to
Mhm.
dishonor that in others. So we see it all over the place. And I thought, well, what if we created a conscious parallel to the World Economic Forum, where dignity was the thread that united everything, as opposed to economy as the thread that united everything. So I went out in search of what I call as solutionaries that had solutions for some of the world's most pressing concerns, and some solutions which were innovations that could really uplift quality of life on the planet. I literally traveled the world for over like nearly 5 years now, um, to find these and then have them start to share their solutions. We seeded the World Dignity Forum in Los Angeles in 2019. And then the idea was to have a massive showcase in 2021, which, of course, due to COVID, all of that had to be put away in the back burner. But we started gathering in small groups, just so because I had found these solutionaries. So really watch this space, Susan. We are getting people together who have created some amazing solutions, from well-being to pain release to education to water to soil to carbon footprint, um, to business models, new
Mhm.
economic models, new funding models. So amazing work happening around the world, Susan. Amazing work.
Oh, I love it. One of the things that I've lamented about being in the conscious realms, or working in the realm of spirituality and mental, spiritual, mental health,
Yeah,
well-being, is that there isn't an established conscious economy. And
yeah,
so, content creators and people that what you call solutionaries, we don't, we're not financially supported.
yeah,
And so, uh, I love this idea. I think it is needed. I also recognize that we have a money construct, so we have this established way of like you said, funding and business models and
yeah,
financial and economic support. That's not just it's going to hold on for dear life, right? It's not going to just go away because we realize that the dignity has been lost. There it's got a strong hold not just on our world, our global economy, but on our psyche, right? On the human psyche.
yeah,
And so it's got a hold that's not going to easily. It's kind of like the patterns that we're talking about, the things that as individuals we can't seem to easily shake or transform, that they're ancestral.
yeah,
The vibration, the flow of it, the thread is so long, that it goes into the ancestral lines, that
mm,
those aren't broken easily. And it goes back to this very first law of thermodynamics that I like to remind people of when we're talking about energy, whether it's energy on the planet or energy of our soul. The
yeah,
energetic essence of us is that first and foremost, it is energy. And what we understand about energy, at least in this third dimension, is that it follows the first law of thermodynamics, which is
yeah,
the energy of conservation, that it cannot be created or destroyed by us. So we
yeah,
can't destroy these old systems, these vibrations. It has to be transformed, it has to change state. And so, how do we change the vibration of
mm,
these old systems? How do they, it's almost like what you talked about in your relationship. You said this is complete, let's
yeah,
celebrate it and let's move on. Well, as you likely know, some of these old antiquated belief systems around industry and money and the economy are not going to let go. Like, they don't want to let go of this old paradigm because it is serving them in some way. It might be
Yeah.
depleting the entire, resources of the world and climate change and, like you said, all the other social ills that it's created. But for those that created it, it's serving them in some way,
Yeah.
and so they're not going to let go.
Yeah.
And so what we have to do in creating a conscious economy or solutionaries is, I believe, we're at some point we will rise up or grow up this what I call a conscious economy enough, but as people that, like yourself or like myself, that have other industry expertise, like we trained, or we can speak the language of finance or speak the language of healthcare or science or education or whatever it is, that we go
Yeah.
back into those old institutions,
Yeah.
and change them from within.
Yeah.
That
Indeed.
it's I don't know that we're gonna get rid of it, because I believe it's underneath everything is a vibration or is an energetic frequency. And if we understand that there's energy behind it, even if it's the energy of our thoughts, the energy of our beliefs, the energy of our feelings, whatever it is, the energy of ideology or the energy of culture, whatever it is, the things that we think are just as they are, but at the very core of them, there's a vibration,
Yeah.
um, to them, that if we can shift the vibration, then we can uplift and change how we perceive and how we believe and how we experience the world.
Yeah. Indeed. 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 Very well shared, Susan. So,
Well, with that, Minu, I would love it if you could share with us how our audience can learn more about you and your conscious works.
yes, I mean, my social handle is the best way to get in touch with me, which is just my name, Mynoo Maryel, on Instagram or Facebook. And you can also email me on minu@minoomaryel.com. The flourishing code from the 29th of July until the 2nd of August, we are running a 5-day launch campaign, and you can have access, you can download the Kindle book completely for free for yourself or as a gift that you might want to send to your loved ones. It'll be available completely for free download on those 5 days. And then, of course, it goes back to the price that it is aimed at. But it would be great if your readers, your listeners, would take advantage of that offer, Susan. Thank you so much for the work
Absolutely.
you're doing and really in contributing to uplifting quality of life through raising our consciousness in the world.
Oh, thank you to Minu. This has been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you.
Interested in giving Magic Mind a try? For a limited time, you can get up to 20% off one-time purchases with code BeConscious20. You can claim it at www.magicmind.com/BeConscious20. The link can be found in the show notes. I want to thank you for taking this inner journey with us today. And whether you are coming or going, looking inside or out, remember to be conscious. If you love this episode and if today's message resonated with you, please subscribe, rate, and review the Be Conscious podcast. This helps listeners just like you find intriguing and transformative content. I also want to know what inspired you and what conscious topics you would like to hear more about. And if you want, you can share those thoughts and questions with me at info@susannicholas.org.
Thanks for listening to the Be Conscious podcast with author, TEDx international speaker, and conscious coach, Dr. Susan Nicholas. Be sure to connect with her to stay up to date with her latest news and works. Learn more about her conscious speaking platform at susannicholas.org/speaking. Stay tuned for the next thought-provoking episode. And whether you are coming or going, looking inside or out, remember to be conscious.